Hello everybody, welcome to this video on Data Manipulation Language, or DML for short, which is a subset of SQL commands concerned with inserting data into database tables, updating data already in database tables, and deleting data from database tables. So let's start learning how to do all of this straight away. So let's start by learning how to insert records into a database table. Here we have our authors table, which we created in the previous video in this series, and you can see it's empty. There's no data in it, and it has these 6 columns: author ID, first name, last name, nationality, date of birth, and date of death. So let's start inserting a row of data in this table. And to do that, the syntax is insert into, followed by the table name. So in this case, it's authors. We then open a pair of brackets, and we write all our columns which we want to insert data into. So author ID, first name, last name, nationality, date of birth, and then date of death. So these are the columns we're going to insert data into, and then we insert the values. And we do this in order of columns. So the first value will be for author ID. So we're going to insert a value of 1. And then first name. So we're going to be inserting George Orwell into our authors table as our first author. So his first name is George, second name or last name is Orwell. His nationality is UK. His date of birth is 1903. June the 25th, and he died in 1950 on January the 21st. And then we end that with a semicolon. So if we run this, you can see it ran successfully. And then if we type select star from authors, so this query select star from is going to select all the data from a particular table. So if we run this, you can see we now have one value in our authors table. And when we're running insert into commands, we have to have string data such as varchar in the single quotes, and we also have to have dates in single quotes. But numeric data types such as int or decimal do not have to be in single quotes. Actually, they shouldn't be in single quotes. So this is how we insert a record into a database table. And as a mini challenge, in the comments section, write a valid SQL command for inserting the author Stephen King into the authors table. We can also insert multiple records at a time in a single SQL command. And we do this by just comma separating our values. So let's insert multiple records into the authors table all at once. So I've just copy and pasted the top line, and then we can insert our values and they will be comma separated for each record that we want to enter into the table. So I'm going to enter J.R.R. Tolkien. I'm then going to comma separate that, open a new pair of brackets, and enter my third author, which is going to be Hilary Mantel. And then finally, I'm going to insert George R.R. Martin into the table. Now George R.R. Martin is still alive, so he doesn't have a date of death value. So we are going to insert a null value for George R.R. Martin's date of death. And we do that just by typing null without single quotes. So this is how we handle inserting missing data. And then we end that query with a semicolon. And if we run that, you can see it ended in an error, and that's because I didn't insert a value for date of death for J.R.R. Tolkien. So I need to do that now. And if I rerun that, you can see it was successful. And if I select star from authors, you can see we were able to add 3 records with one single SQL command. So just remember, commas separate each set of values, and the values must match the columns in order. So author ID, first name, last name, nationality, date of birth, date of death. Now we also have a books table in our database, so I'm going to insert some data into our books table. So I've inserted 4 records into our books table. So if I select star from books, you can see we have 4 books. We've got Animal Farm, which was by author ID 1, which was George Orwell. We've got Hobbit, which was written by author ID 2, J.R.R. Tolkien. And then we've got 2 books with author ID 3, both written by Hilary Mantel. And currently no books written by author ID 4, George R.R. Martin. But you can see it was exactly the same syntax to insert the data into our books table. So now we know how to insert data into a table. Let's learn how we can modify or update data within a table. So if we wanted to update column values within a table, we would use this syntax here. Update the table name, set the column name we want to change to a new value, where a particular column is equal to a particular value. So I'm going to change the copies sold value for Animal Farm from 42 million to 52 million. So to do that, I need to update the books table. I need to set the copies sold column equal to 52 million. And I need to put my where clause, so I need to say where book title is equal to Animal Farm. And I need to end that with a semicolon. And if I run this query, you can see it updated rows equal to 1 row. And if we now select star from books, you can see we have a value of 52 million in copies sold for book title Animal Farm. And you can see as we updated this row in the table, it's put that row at the bottom of the result set because it's the last modified row. In general, it is best to use a column which uniquely identifies each record in a table in your where clause. So it would have been a little bit better to use the book ID equal to 1 when updating values, just so we know we're not going to update any records that we don't want to update. And I'm sure you J.R.R. Tolkien fans have been screaming at the screen with the book title for his book Hobbit. Actually, it should be The Hobbit. So as a mini challenge, post in the comments a SQL command that will modify the book title of Hobbit to The Hobbit. So post that SQL command in the comments section of this video. And we can also use this same syntax to update or modify multiple column values within a table. It just depends on what the where clause is filtering on. So for example, we could update books. We could set publication date. So the publication date column equal to 2015 and the 1st of July, where author ID is equal to 3. So you wouldn't do this in real life, as it's unlikely that an author will release multiple books on the same day, but just as an example, we have author ID column and we have 2 values equal to 3, so it should update these 2 publication dates So let's run that. And you can see updated rows is equal to 2. And if we select star from books, you can see the publication date has been updated to 1st of July 2015 for author ID 3. So for every record where author ID is equal to 3, the publication date has been updated to this value here. Now we can also update all values in a column to a particular value by simply leaving the where clause out. So we can update table set column equal to a particular value. So let's update books and set copies sold equal to 7 million and leave out a where clause. And if we run this, now when you leave out a where clause when you're updating or deleting data, normally the database management tool that you're using is going to warn you saying you're about to execute update statement without a where clause on books, possible data loss. So these are risky queries to run as you're not filtering out any values, you're updating every value in a particular column. So you just get this warning message here, but if you click OK, you can see it's updated 4 values. And if we select star from books, you can see now every value in the copies sold column has been updated to 7 million. So in general, this is very bad practice to do, but it is possible to update all values in a column in one query. Now we can also modify multiple different column values in a single query. So we can run update table name, set column name 1 equal to a new value, comma, column name 2 equal to a new value, where a particular column equals a particular value. So as an example, let's update books. And let's set book title equal to 1984. And let's set publication date equal to 1949-06-08, where book ID is equal to 1. So basically we're updating Animal Farm by George Orwell to 1984 by George Orwell, and we're also changing the publication date, which is the publication date of 1984. So if we run this, you can see it updated 1 row. So if we now select star from books, you can see we no longer have Animal Farm under book title. We have 1984 for book ID 1, and we have the publication date 1949, June the 8th. So this is how we can update multiple columns in a single query, and if we wanted to update a third one, we would just have to comma separate and add our third column to update. So let's move on to deleting or removing records from a table. And to do that, we use delete from a particular table where column is equal to a particular value. So as an example, let's delete from books where book title is equal to Hobbit. So if we run this, you can see it was successful. And if we now select star from books, we now only have 3 records in the table as we've deleted Hobbit from the books table. And as a mini challenge, post in the comments with a valid SQL query to delete all books from the books table which have sold fewer copies than 10 million. Now let's try deleting data from the authors table. So let's try and delete from authors where author ID is equal to 2. So if we run this, you can see it was successful, and if we select star from authors, we now no longer have author ID 2 in our authors table, and that author was J.R.R. Tolkien, so he has been deleted from the authors table. Now let's try and delete George Orwell from the authors table. So I'm just going to copy and paste this query, and I'm just going to change author ID to 1. And if I run this, you can see it throws an error. So it's saying error, update or delete on table authors violates foreign key constraint books author ID F key on table books. So basically, because we have a reference to author ID 1 in the books table, we cannot delete from authors where author ID equals 1. We can't delete it until this reference here to author ID 1 in the books table has been removed. So there are two solutions. We either remove the foreign key reference, which is out of scope for this video, or we delete this record in the books table first and then delete the author where author ID is equal to 1 in the authors table, which is exactly what we did for The Hobbit and J.R.R. Tolkien. So the syntax to delete all records from a table is to simply run delete from table name. So if we try and run delete from authors, you can probably guess what's going to happen. So we get the warning because we haven't got a where clause in our delete statement. But if we click OK, we get that same foreign key violation. So what we need to do is we need to delete from books first. And again, we get that warning, but it's run successfully. So if we select star from books, we have an empty table. We've deleted all records from the books table, and we can now delete from authors. We get the warning, but this time it's run successfully, and we can select star from authors, and we now have an empty authors table as we've deleted all records from the authors table. Now there is a second SQL command which will remove all records from a table, and I mentioned it in the data definition language video in this series, and that is truncate. So we can truncate table, or just truncate followed by the table name, and this will also remove all records from a table. So this does the equivalent of delete from books, truncate table books, but it does it in a different way. What delete from is doing is it is actually deleting each record one by one in the table, whereas truncate table is actually deleting the whole table itself. It's dropping the table from the database and then recreating that table with no records in the table, so an empty table. And we can see that if we run truncate authors. So you can see we've tried to truncate the authors table and we have an error, and that's because there is a foreign key reference in the authors table, and that's because there is a foreign key in the books table which is referencing a column in the authors table. So when we try and truncate authors, we're dropping the table from the database, which we're not allowed to do if it contains a foreign key reference. You can see here, cannot truncate a table referenced in a foreign key constraint. So delete from table name and truncate table name both remove all records from a table, but they do it in a different way. So that is everything I wanted to go through in this video. We've learned the three main DML commands, that is insert into, update, and delete from tables. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. And if you did find it useful, please let me know by liking, subscribing, and leaving a comment on the video. And if you click on the video you see now on your screen, you'll learn how we can retrieve result sets from a database using our authors and books tables.